der zentralen Position. Nur Schwarze hat er noch vor sich. Dann ist es vielleicht noch. Er ist im Strafraum. Und der Feld. Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht. 5:1. Herrlich!
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast. I'm your host Markus and as always joined by Dad Bayern Fjortoft. That we've had a fantastic weekend. I'm going through the list of things we want to talk through, and I'm thinking, oh, how do I get time for this, for that? We got first against third in Stuttgart against Leverkusen, which is a fantastic game. We had Dortmund against Leipzig, and then we had Eintracht against Bayern 5-1. And we're both wearing our shirt. If you were listening to this through audio, I'm wearing a third kit shirt. It's Haller in the background. You're wearing the vintage Eintracht Fjortoft shirt as well. I mean, the floor is yours, but what a day for Eintracht Frankfurt. What a weekend for German football, for that matter. A lot to discuss. But yeah, the floor is yours. It's a fantastic day for Eintracht.
It was a fantastic day for Frankfurt, and also it's funny because we didn't know what we were wearing, and we both, when we connected, you were sitting. Your is match worn. That is by Sebastian Haller, who is now playing for Dortmund. He made an Übersteiger that I did against Kaiserslautern back in the days, and then Freddy Bobic, the then sport director, showed him that, and then we had a connection, and then we met a couple of 3 weeks later, and he gave me his shirt. So that's match worn. I have my vintage, as you say. We will talk in detail about the game. I just want to say that this weekend I didn't do Premier League because I was invited to a great program in Germany called Doppelpass, which is 11 o'clock every Sunday, the most popular speaking discussion program, 2.5 hours. You're sitting there with always interesting guests. It's always great knowledge to be there, very professional production. In Munich Airport Hotel, it's always at the same place, and you're discussing the last round. And as the game, I was watching Bayern get trashed by Eintracht Frankfurt, and I was sitting there thinking, wow, what a great timing for me to be on that program the next morning. The only thing I felt for a bit was this boss of Bayern Munich, the head of sport now, Christoph Freund. He's been at Salzburg all his football life, and he's growing up there. But now, since 1st of September, he's the head of sport, and he was there. This was his first time that he made a big interview. They will get to know him. And to be fair to he had the first hour, he just had to sit there. But he is a very, very good communicator. I said at the end of the program, I said, what will happen if people start liking Bayern? Because Bayern, a part of the brand of Bayern is not being liked. Is Bayern against rest of Germany, but still the Germans. So many Germans will have them as their second favorite team. That's why you were seeing a lot of players go there. Now, so it was a fantastic
Can I interject
thing to be.
Because
yeah,
I was fortunate to listen. Actually, because it's available on audio, so I listened to it today, and it was really cool to listen to. Obviously, it's an interesting dynamic because there's a lot of people in it, right? And you had Stefan Effenberg, and you had a couple of others there, but that was the one name that popped out for me. Christoph Freund, as you said, the new sporting director for Bayern. Twofold, I guess, for you when you're there, you have the Bayern sporting director there. So how do you approach that? But then also, if we go into his shoes, how does he approach something like that? Because I wouldn't say it's the elephant in the room even. It's just the fact that Bayern were really, really bad and lost 5-1, their first loss of the season. So he's got to take it. But at the same time, there is always that dynamic or consideration to make, so to speak. How did you find that?
Well, first of all, Christoph came there and he knew that they wanted the German fans, the crowd, people to get to know him, because this was the first big interview he has done. But of course, the first hour we only talk about that he's losing. But he was very critical to Bayern. He was very critical about the mistakes they did in defense, their attitude. When they got 3-1 just before halftime with Kimmich, they thought they were doing better. When he talked about what Tuchel said at halftime, and then Tuchel made some comments that were very honest. He looked for the mistakes by himself, but people tend to see that as a weakness. Before he said to explain what a interesting, funny game it was, he said our XG was better than Bayern. Well, in my simple head, that means that fuck off XG. That is in my simple world. But when Tuchel says it, it can sound like an excuse, but it didn't mean that way. He was just very honest about that it was a game. How can I analyze a game like this? Then he also said that before the game, he got this paper that showed the team of the opposition, and he was wondering, would they play 4 at the back, 3 at the back, and then he saw it. He thought they would play 4, and then they did 3, and maybe I gave it too much information, and that was interpreted, understood. Interpreted by the general crowd in Germany. Then to say that he was weak because Bayern should always play their game. We are the best team. Don't do that. Lothar Matthäus said it. Stefan Effenberg, who is always at Sport1, he's their football pundit, did that. But it was a quite constructive thing. Of course, Christoph Freund would love to have been sitting there after winning. But the thing is as well, Bayern so seldom lose a football game. So it's quite clear that the media will make a meal out of it. And when you're losing 5-1, that's one thing. For my position, it's interesting because you sit there and think, what position do you going to take? Or are you going to do this role, that role? But I've in an age now, and I guess I've always done it. I'm always best where I am myself. Being quite clear, try to have fun, always have it with a smile, and there's no way you can think of what you're going to say is funny. That has to be done because I will have an image that I will take things with a smile. And I think I've seen a good feedback on the day, but I think we talked a lot about the crisis at Bayern, and we kind of didn't mention Eintracht, and that is of course always a problem. So before we went to a break, the moderator said, when we come back, we'll talk more about the Frankfurt. And I said, oh, how did they do yesterday? And that was a kind of critic of our way, but it's normal. And I think that the Frankfurt fan has to understand that, because if Bayern, great Bayern, the reigning champion, the 11th time they're winning everything, one of the best teams, losing 5-1, that's the thing. But there were a lot of talking. If we do finish the analysis on Bayern, I mean, Markus, you were a defender, and when you see how Kim played in this game, I mean, it's just amazing that you could do so many mistakes.
And you've as well. And you've discussed this obviously in length, because this is close to 2-hour show. So you've been able to really digest 2.5 hours, really able to digest kind of what's been going on. And we obviously have other matters and games to attend to. But the overall kind of analysis was, and that will be depending on who you ask, is, well, is it a quality issue? To which you pointed to, well, they have world-class players. And you drew the analogy for any English listeners that as where strikers go to die, so to speak, at West Ham, I think it was, or something along the lines, defenders go to die at Bayern almost. Kim was one of the most, if not the most attractive centre-back. Bayern got a big statement signing. Upamecano is a very highly rated defender, was at RB Leipzig, plays for France, very poor. So is it a quality thing? Well, within that context, no. Okay? But then is it individual mistakes, which is related to the first point, or is it mentality? And it kind of seems to have shifted between those 2 or 3 points as to what it is to make sense of it. But then we can also, the fourth aspect of it is that Eintracht had a fantastic game as well. Are you kind of in any of those camps, or is it kind of a little bit of everything?
I think it's a little bit of everything, but I think also that it should not be overdone. Maybe Kim and Upamecano they are asked to do things they can't do, because a Bayern Munich player will always have the ball a lot, and the defender's got to be involved in the build-up. And it seems that Kim, especially Upamecano, we always know that he had a mistake in him. He's always one of those who you will think of do a mistake that will kind of punish them. But Kim, I mean, that I think it was the third goal. He's losing that duel on the right side. I mean, when you see Kim, you just think of Arnold Schwarzenegger has a little brother. He looks like the strongest man in the world, and it was like pushed over. So it can't only be your positioning. There was something going on mentally, how you go into the game, approach the game. And I think that when Bayern is 3-0 down after 36 minutes, I mean, that is an unbelievable compliment to Eintracht. They went out like machines. And you know, Marcus, we've been together there. You were there as a kid, but now is a new arena, but you've been there as well. And you know, when that arena starts going after the team, and when they get a sniff of something big will happen, they kind of push them forward. And there were some performances in that Frankfurt team on Saturday that was just unbelievable.
It was incredible. And the last time Bayern conceded 5, lost 5-1 was against Eintracht Frankfurt. And historically speaking, only Gladbach have inflicted more defeats at home to Bayern than Eintracht. So Eintracht are good, but at the same time, Eintracht were not in a great run of form leading into this. But then you go in there, you have Marmoush, who's now on 7 league goals, the best tally of his career. You have 6 new signings in the summer. We talked about the rebuild of Eintracht under Dino Topmöller, who, an added aspect to the story, was the assistant to Nagelsmann, which is also an interesting part of it. But Eintracht were incredible, and which is a huge indictment of Bayern. Eintracht ran 10 kilometers far further than Bayern Munich, which is, and I'm not usually into these kind of run numbers because it can translate into a lot of things, but that is also a huge worrying sign in terms of the overall approach and commitment to a game. But fair play to Eintracht, and I think we might revisit a player towards the end when we pick our player of the week and what have you.
Yeah, but still, we have to go through the team, Marcus, because because we can't underestimate. I guess if Eintracht Frankfurt, that we both love, win 5-1 against Eintracht Frankfurt, that would be our main topic in this podcast and this episode, because there was some performances. I will put down Mario Götze. Mario Götze has been out for a while. He's the darling of the nation. He's been down, coming back, playing fantastic in any role that he's been playing. Marmoush scored his 7th, but he got his suspended now for the Leverkusen game. And then our friend on the left side, and I have wrote it up because I always used to say that wrong with Mbimba, because I think we have to have the whole name, huh, Marcus? Not just only Mbimba.
Give us the whole name then.
Yeah, the Diva Mbimba. No, and what is interesting with that player is I didn't know if you noticed, Marcus, but that the way he scored his goal, it was a bit Jude Bellingham. He can play on the right side and left side. He is academy player, or he was developed at PSG, so he's used to play. He's used to go to good schools. I mean, he had superstars around him, going on loan, different places. Coming back now, he can play on the right side, left side. He wants to play central. He wants to be number 8. And then he scored 2 goals against Bayern Munich. And both goals were like, there was so much passion. There was so much will to get in there, to get to the goal. And then the Swede Larsson, I mean, he was flying around there. It was great to have Koch back, the central defender. He's been injured. He's been in the team the last couple of 2 games, but now he was 100% fit, which is very, very important for them. And for Bayern, in terms of Kimmich scored a great goal at 3-1, and it's fair when they came out in the second half, they had a quite good chance, but still 5-1. It's amazing. It's one of those days that will go into the folklore history of Eintracht Frankfurt.
It was incredible.
Then we can go to the next game.
Yeah, no, but it was incredible. I mean, I'm listing the 6 new signings there in Eintracht style line. You have Koch, you have Paco, you have Larsson, Scheibe, Epimbe, Marmoush, all involved, huge involvements in that game. Knauf was extremely good for Eintracht. It was an energy, and like you say, when you go to Frankfurt, that stadium, that atmosphere, any player who's played there, any player or anyone who's attended, it is an incredible stadium to be a part of, and fantastic for us to see an Eintracht back up and running. After we commented on it last week, we were commenting on Eintracht's lack of form, and they lost to Saarbrücken in the cup as well, right? So and just to land that game, I think also for Dino Topmöller, you just mentioned it. He's been assistant coach to Julian Nagelsmann. Julian Nagelsmann get fired at Bayern. Now with the German national team. Surely they've had a chat, huh?
They will have a fantastic chat on Saturday night. Not confirmed, but I guess that will be a fantastic feeling. And fair enough, because as a help coach, as a main coach, as the coach. He's a rookie in this game, and this is also a testament to his work, because, like you were saying, I think there was 4 losses before this, included the sub-rookie game. So they came into this and doing them. Now they play in Aberdeen. Unfortunately, that was seen as the big day out for the Eintracht fans. UEFA stopped them doing that because of some irregularity. But then the next game next Sunday is Leverkusen away. And I think that is a great game for them to have, because there is a thing saying that when you beat Bayern, you kind of have a bad period. So it's much better to play Leverkusen, because that's the best team in Germany at the moment, and then you will not underestimate them. You have to be top there, and maybe then, Marcus, we can go over to that game between Stuttgart and Leverkusen. You can start on that.
No, yes, indeed. I mean, Stuttgart had a fantastic first half, rewarded with Führig. What's also cool with Stuttgart is you have 8 Germans in that starting lineup too. And remember, Stuttgart, fantastic. There was an interesting stat in which ahead of this round, there were 24 teams in history at this point since the 95-96 season that had reached 30 points at this stage of the season. 24 teams, 12 of them become champions. Saying that to put into context how strongly Stuttgart have started, they were in relegation playoffs in which they saved their spots against Hamburg last season. They now find themselves here. 18 shots they had in the first half against Leverkusen. That's more than Leverkusen have conceded, so to speak, an entire game all of season. 18 shots, it was just incredible. Undav, Gursai, Führig, it's a great dynamic within that team. But then Leverkusen reacted very well. 2 minutes into that, less than 2 minutes into that second half, Boniface, great little smart ball by Xhaka, Boniface in with a cross, and then Wirtz. It's not a easy place to go to. Sorry, Dortmund have experienced that on a couple of occasions, and Leverkusen remain the only unbeaten team in the top 5 leagues, which credit is due, because Stuttgart started that game off very strongly, and Leverkusen responded well, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a great game, and Radetzky, the goalkeeper of Leverkusen, was very busy in the first half. The first 2 saves, he looked a bit dodgy. He didn't look like he was on, but then he had some good saves as well. Talking about atmosphere, great atmosphere is also in the Mercedes-Benz country of Stuttgart. I guess Xhaka hit the crossbar, so they could have taken all 3 points. Boniface with a fantastic pass, you must say, a brilliant pass. He got 8 goals now and 6 assists, so he's on fire. And just mind you, there's the Africa Cup and the Asia Cup now. There's a lot of talking about that. 2 great tournaments for the people involved, of course, but a big it's a big problem for the clubs who will miss some players. But there was a 1-1, and if you have a look at the table now, Leverkusen will be 4 points ahead of Bayern, but that is just because of the Union Berlin game for Bayern was cancelled because of snow. That will be played in January, in around 2023 or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. In January. So good. But then the other game, Marcus, we can go straight to that as well, because I was watching that very intensively as well, and that was Dortmund against Leipzig. It was Marco Rose back where he was fired, Terzic under pressure. Sebastian Kehl is the head of sport. They fired his assistant because the assistant in a VIP lounge said that Terzic was useless. Terzic is the more or less son of Watzke. Watzke is the head of everything in German football. Matthias Sammer is his little brother sitting there with his hat on, watching the game. There's a lot of things going on in Dortmund. There, sometimes I think Dortmund fans will love to see their Champions League team playing also in the Bundesliga, because in the Champions League, in the group of death with Newcastle, PSG and AC Milan, they're doing fantastically. But it started very bad, Marcus. And when you saw Hummels doing that 100-meter sprint, I guess the Fjørtoft genes felt sorry for him.
Yes, indeed, and listen, that's the Hummels has been fantastic since the last season. I think he's been really strong because we've tended to kind of write him off. The problem is, and this is from a centre back who also was pretty slower than Hummels, but even still, when you have that high line, it is a real risk. And obviously, if Schlotterbeck wins his duel, it's a different story. But then you have someone like Openda there, and your line is high, you lose the ball, and then you find yourself running up against him. initially was given a yellow card because it was inside, and they thought it was a penalty. But since it was outside, it turned into a red. His third red card in his Bundesliga career for Hummels. Changed the game, obviously. Terzic was happy though but Dortmund did a good game under the circumstances of having 10 men, had more possession than RB Leipzig, etc., etc. But the fact of the matter is they lose 3-2. They're now 11 points behind Leverkusen, I think, and Leipzig have cemented their fourth spot, and Dortmund now have to have a real fight on their hands getting a Champions League spot.
Yeah, but first of all, I'm always been critical to Hummels in the way thing has gone when I criticized him, that he even got in touch with me. Remember that, Markus, at that time? But I've always respected it. It was nothing. I think it was also a bit misunderstood, because I think that offensively you haven't seen a better defender in his generation, and I mean that honestly. Defensively, he's been bright enough to cover himself. He has played for clubs who have been dominant, like at his best time at Germany, when he was a very contributor to their titles, at Bayern Munich, of course, and also at Dortmund. But as you were saying, I'm so much respect for him coming back now with Schlotterbeck, Süle. There are younger players, and he still managed to play, and he's doing well for them, and also being a leader. I think I must honestly say, 2 minutes after the game, he made a tweet saying that I'm sorry for everything, and sorry that I ruined this game. Terzic did the same in the press conference. I feel a bit bad for that, because I think that, yes, it turned around, but yes, and he is a guy who likes the sliding tackle. He's one of the best in the game doing sliding tackles. Yes, he avoided to get a goal. Should he let him go? I think the thing is not that easy. I think
it's tough.
They do it instinctively. What is he tries to avoid Dortmund scoring goals. My point is that I think that is one of the small problems. Hummels has been doing well for them. Like you were saying, it was unfortunately, because if they got a penalty, it would be 1-0 maybe, but it wouldn't be sent off against 11 against 11. But seeing the whole game as a whole, they did well. They came back in the game, but still ending up losing. But mind you, it was 2-1 for Leipzig till the 90th minutes or something. Then Paulsen scored again. He's on fire. Füllkrug then made us 3-2, but there was never a risk for them losing that. But a big win for Leipzig, and the crisis at Dortmund is kind of extended.
Yeah, it is, and they're playing PSG. They're already through, but they want to obviously get first spot. I think just to end it on Hummels as well is, I think the fact that he's the de facto leader in that team, especially in the back, with you mentioning Schlotterbeck and Süle, that have been predicted to be the great leaders in the back for not only Dortmund, but for Germany. And the fact that he's still stepping up their role, keeping Süle out of the team, I wouldn't say it's unfair, but I think it's more of a credit to Hummels that he is in that position, and the fact that he is the stalwart in the back there. And I need to see more from a Schlotterbeck. I understand he's young, but also a Süle, because
Markus, did you see Paulsen when he tricked him out on that goal?
Exactly.
Schlotterbeck, that is one of the reasons he's not in a German squad. I mean, you can't be tricked out like that. That is what you're doing in an old boys game, in an all-star game.
I agree. And I saw that, and I think, and then I'm wary of the fact that Schlotterbeck is 23, and what.
Yeah, but it's nothing to do with how old.
I know. I'm just saying that I'd like to think that he has a few more levels in him. Has he done enough or done what we've expected from him? Probably not. But I think that's a part of the discussion, without excusing it.
No, it's excusing it, but it's an observation. But I think one of the big problems with German football, and I'm a big lover of German and English football. Those are my two favorite leagues, always been. But I think that they're overestimating a lot of the players. Schlotterbeck, great.
Yeah, but I've not been convinced. I agree.
No, I'm not convinced. It's the same on a different level with even a Joshua Kimmich. They talked him into being the new Franz Beckenbauer. I mean, he should just be sure that he is the present Joshua Kimmich. I think that is the main thing. See the analysis after the World Cup in Qatar. With only one half we were bad. There's so many silly analysis of German football. I think they have to go down to make sure they have a golden generation coming now with the under 17 who won the World Cup, but still that won't be enough for the World Cup. There should be enough good players, but I'm very worried about the defense. And we have to also say Manuel Neuer didn't look very well against Eintracht Frankfurt. Maybe 2, maybe 3 on a good day. The Manuel Neuer we know. I mean, he need help as well. Upamecano, Kim didn't help him. Schlotterbeck, Süle scored, came on and scored. But still, there is a big problem from Germany. The only one who is delivering is Füllkrug, and he's always scoring goals, it seems.
Füllkrug and Julian Brandt had 2 assists in the game and is now topping that list.
And Wirtz, Musiala. So
yes.
We can't count.
But I agree. No, but I agree.
Players.
But when you've had that many tournaments in which it's gone poorly, and yes, you won the World Cup. Yes, you have the treble winning side of Bayern and all that they've accomplished. It's true. Something needs to shift there, because I hear, and even how the conversations are from a Kimmich and those lot. It is something needs to be redirected, and whether that's a little too late going into the Euros, I don't know, because that squad selection is none the wiser either. And now, well, we'll briefly mention it, but now they're talking about it should maybe Jan-Niklas Bestel, Heidenheim be there because he's good with that. I mean, they're desperately looking for some kind of solution, which is
Koch for Eintracht Frankfurt is a candidate, and I think based on this season, he deserved a chance. The problem is for anyone. The problem is for Germany. The problem is for Julian Nagelsmann. You have only 2 national games before, and if I'm not 100% wrong, they are playing against France and Netherlands. So that is a great test, but it's also a chance that you will be hammered. You can get yourself a self-confidence, but then when you come to June, you have to get your squad up, and then we go. Having said that, I think that they will be helped through the passion of the fans. They're playing Scotland in the first game. I've already predicted Scotland will win that game. So, and then the crises are going on. So that's how it is.
Yeah, we'll go on to the following games. I want to just discuss briefly Union Berlin, who got their first win in over 3 months. New coach, who they're undefeated under Bjelica. But 16 winless games they had, and they were 3-0 up, and then Alisson Player got one back, but 3-1 against Gladbach. What is interesting with this Union team is that he's come in and he's made a few changes, and it's been predicated, and while it's easier to say, it's shown in the selection because he's picked it off training performance and attitude. So you have someone like Fofana who's registered for Champions League. He was not even in the squad for this game. So you have then 2 goal scorers. You have Hollerbach and Kaufmann. They aren't even registered in the Champions League squad. Hollerbach was on the left-hand side. Kaufmann came in. Hollerbach came from VN Wiesbaden, so they got promoted from the Dritte Liga, 3rd league, up to the Zweite Bundesliga. Kaufmann came from Karlsruhe. He's left a few big profiles on the bench, and now there's a sense of optimism brewing, because I guess the part of the idea of the recruitment for Union Berlin was, well, we're here now. How do we take that next step? And they had a lot of players. We were talking about them fielding 2 equal 11s, etc. But it seems with Bjelica, with being a relatively unknown name in German football, albeit played for Kaiserslautern, he's intending to play a modern football, using the wingers a lot more, which is perfect for the Hollerbach, and moving Gossens up higher. There's suddenly some optimism brewing, and sometimes that, this very well from having played, like, football is a game of momentum as well, and now they suddenly find themselves going into this Real Madrid game, and there's suddenly a bit of can we actually muster together a result?
Which they nearly did when they played Real Madrid in the first game. So we are recording this on a Monday night, so they're playing tomorrow, Tuesday, for us. Real Madrid, what a game that is. What is interesting also, how coincidences are, as you say, this is his first Bundesliga game for Union Berlin, but it was supposed to be second because the game at Bayern was cancelled, which maybe was an advantage for them to start with a game at a great home turf in Berlin. Then they played 1-1 against Braga, I think, in the Champions League. So they are going now, and now they are on a safe spot, and maybe they can get themselves decent after this Hinrunde, so which means the first half of the season. being decent there because they got enough quality in there to stay up and stay in the Bundesliga. So then they can attack from next year. A great start for Bjelica.
It was good to see, and they suddenly find themselves off the bottom. And I think you see a lot of teams there that are Darmstadt, Mainz, Köln. We can just mention it. 0-0 didn't help either of the teams.
No.
Darmstadt lost to Heidenheim, and Mainka, the captain, scored 2. Actually, Jan-Niklas Best had 3 assists, if I'm not mistaken. So he hit with his magic left foot. Heidenheim again showing that if you win at home, you're good at set pieces. It goes a far way. And Darmstadt were in the lead, I think I think they'll stay up as well. And then you had Bremen winning for the first time in 4 games against Augsburg. You had Stark and Durksch, which was relieved a bit of pressure from Ole Werner, to be fair. And then we go through the remainder. We have Wolfsburg as well. Just a brief one on Wolfsburg, Dad. Niko Kovac might find himself in a bit of trouble now. They're out of the cup. He was unlucky. They should have won. A huge chance for Vint there. And then now they lost at home to Freiburg again. Is he under a bit of danger?
I think in every league you will always have a candidate who is most likely to get fired. I mean, that is the part of the media landscape. In England, it took some time. The Heckingbottom will always be up there. Now the next one to wait for is Cooper at Nottingham Forest. Then he not saved him, but he got a result. The Wolves didn't. He were 1-1 and things like that. But you just feel that Wolfsburg now, this was the game to expect to win. They had their chances, but Freiburg, they are on a quite mean run now, if I'm not 100% with Freiburg. So Niko Kovac, there was a time this season I was showing more money, exciting players he had and everything, and it just shows you how quick things are changing. It's an old cliche that things you have to be there for your next game. You always have to have the right attitude, but you also have to have the Mr. Luck or Mrs. Luck, whatever. And Freiburg have it at the moment, and they won. And Hoffenheim as well. Kramaric scoring again is always when Hoffenheim doing well. Kramaric, I love him.
Brilliant. And now they're all the way up there. I think they're 2 points behind Dortmund as well.
They are 2 points behind Dortmund. Eintracht is 4 points behind Dortmund, which is quite interesting because now Dortmund is on the 5th place. Remember, there is a new modus of the Champions League next season. So that means that the 5th place, based on your points and everything, ranking, the big leagues could get 5 teams in there. So the 5th position is very important. Just you think, Dortmund will be happy with the 5th position. But it's early doors, but still, Hoffenheim and Frankfurt slowly coming up there. Let's see now how they would do at Leverkusen, my Eintracht.
And we know what Union Berlin and Bayern are great examples of it. A break treats teams differently as well, right? Because part of the analysis is, well, had you too long of a break, and did you, should you not have had a break, etc., just for the momentum? So people come back to the Rückrunde. It's going to be different styles, different momentums going into that, and some teams will treasure that more than others. Just looking just briefly at the Zweite Bundesliga, that as well. We had a couple of pretty impactful results because Holstein Kiel beat Düsseldorf away, and then St. Pauli now drew against Osnabrück, and St. Pauli haven't won in 4 games either. But what is nice with the Zweite Bundesliga is that the cup was just drawn that as well, and we're going to have a pretty significant involvement of Zweite Bundesliga teams, not only in the quarterfinals but in the semifinals, because they're meeting each other.
Yeah, and the great. I mean, you must say the Leverkusen will be the big favorite now. They should be. But who did they draw? They draw Stuttgart. So that as the pairing did, you will have a second division team. You can also have Saarbrücken. Saarbrücken, I guess, having Gladbach at home. I think that was their draw. So they'll have a new chance to go into the semifinals. So yes, there's a lot to play of for those, because that is now. Especially, I must say, for Leverkusen to get a title, because the Bundesliga will always be hard, because we all kind of feel that, well, at the end Bayern will win anyway. There was a time when we said there are 4 challenges for them. Now we don't do 1, and so if they win their game in hand, they're 1 point behind Leverkusen. Leverkusen can't stop losing. We know they're missing players because of Africa Cup and the Asia Cup, so especially Africa Cup. So yeah, great. But in its Zweite Liga, of course, Hamburger Sportsman losing. So Kiel and great result for Holstein Kiel, because Düsseldorf is a big club. It's been always up there. Holstein Kiel, I mean, but we'll find an English version of Holstein Kiel. There must be a Southend outside London playing with the big boys, and now they're second in the league. So fantastic for the minnows. I always remember that, Marcus, the way you made a trial that time. They looked.
Hey, I have a game for Holstein Kiel. Don't forget this. It is a short trial, but I'll take that game.
They looked for a small defenders, a quick one, and they took you on trial. So that
they looked for an experienced and quick center back, all of which I definitely was not at the time. But it was a good experience. I played a cup game there. No, not a cup game. It was their first game. You know, when you play like a team from level 99. I think we won 10-0 or something like that. Had a few trainings.
But still, you got a game for Holstein Kiel, so
you
always follow them.
That's how it is. Okay. Go towards the players of the week. Dad, how about you kick us off with yours?
But help me with the pronouncement, and so I'm 100% sure that I will do that right, because I was worried at the beginning because Mbimba.
Get it right for when we cut this as the short.
No. We don't cut this. We just do it unplugged because that is Mbimba.
Eric Jr. Dina Mpimba.
Mpimba.
Yeah.
I was talking.
We were getting more familiar with pronouncing his name because he was on fire. That wasn't he?
He was on fire. He was like Jude Bellingham like a player, going into that kind of spaces where it hurts to go in. You do that against Kim. You do it against Upamecano. You do it against one of the best goalkeepers of all time, and we're not overdoing that. Scoring 2 goals in a game like that. He's grown up at the PSG, went on loan. I think that is a great way of get your experience. You play with the big boys, the big stars. You're learning from them. It's like have yourself a great education, and then you're ending up at the Eintracht Frankfurt, and you know you got games. Then had a small injury, but comes back in the game. He says himself he likes to be number 8. In this game, he was left, but he also can play on the right. Very flexible. I think that is an advantage also for Eintracht Frankfurt. They got many midfield players who can play in different positions. But he will always remember this day, a 5-1 trashing of Eintracht Frankfurt, and you scoring 2 goals. That is a day to remember. So he is absolutely my player of the round or this weekend.
Well-deserved recognition. Had to be an Eintracht player. If I could, I would have chosen any other Eintracht player that was on the field, but I will give a shout out to Hollerbach at Union Berlin. And this is as much a tribute to Union Berlin as it is Hollerbach, but I love a good story. Hollerbach, it was his first top flight goal. He had a volley off from a corner. They won 3-1. Bjelica comes in, a relatively unknown in terms of the coaching world, in terms of his stature. He wants to play expansive football. He wants to play a 4-2-3-1. He wants to go through with the wingers. And it suits perfectly for someone like Hollerbach, who came from the 3rd league with Wien Wiesbaden, and a tricky, agile winger who, through merit, got his chance. He's trained well and done enough to impress the new manager, comes in, gets a goal, and Union Berlin get their first win in over 3 months. And I think we all, as football purists, are happy to see that after what they've gone through and with the dismissal of Urs Fischer.
Well done, well deserved, and it's also these great stories are brilliant because there's a lot of talks about the superstars, but we know that these are the football stories, and that's also why we love football so much. There could be a win, there could be a goal, there could be that moment in time. Now I'm start quoting Whitney Houston, so it's time to land this. And I was doing a speech the other day, Marcus, and I found the speech of Al Pacino again in Any Given Sunday. And when he says, you are a bit slow, a bit too late, a bit too early. And that is what football is all about. And And this is a great story. And as we were saying, Marcus, when I played, and when I talked to you when you played, it's all about being on a train when it's taking off, because you're there. And Hollerbach now coming into the team, being a part of that win against Gladbach. Maybe we'll play against Real Madrid. No, you said he's not nominated for Real Madrid, but still, he's there for a team. And what a great end to their Union Berlin's funny season so far, to play Real Madrid. But Bjelica will be happy. And I think Union Berlin will save themselves. And I think, Marcus, we have to end there, because there were so many themes. I think what we will do, Marcus, because the big news today is, of course, that the Bundesliga clubs voted for getting an investor into German football, meaning in short term that they will have more money involved to kind of market the Bundesliga, make the Bundesliga modern, make the Bundesliga a world brand, that they are way behind the Premier League, way behind the Premier League. The fans have been against this. I think that, Marcus, we will have a special episode on this and maybe get a guest on and talk about this change, because in German football, they are a lot of looking for this solution for the whole Bundesliga, not for only one club, because they have the 50+1 rule, meaning that the members gonna have the majority of every club. So this is a big thing for German football, against the fans' will, which will also make a bit controversial. But I think that we should make an episode just on that one, Marcus, and get a good guest on that knows about this even more than we do.
Yeah, it would be interesting. It's obviously a cultural, financial kind of conversation as such, and the football purists, so to speak, who want to have no intervention. And since the German clubs have the 50+1 rule, you can't really inject that private investment through clubs. So you do it on a macro level through the league. And the discussions for the people pro this investment will be that, listen, we are falling behind the bigger leagues like the Premier League, like the La Liga. We need to increase our broadcast rights value. We need to go out to more markets. We need to sell more, etc. And this will benefit the club, of which the opposition to that will say, well, we don't want anyone causing any intervention, to which the pro investment said, no, don't worry about that, etc. But they're smart people. They're not going to take them on their word as such. They say, yeah, okay, we'll see. So therein lies that kind of cultural kind of conflict as well. But it would be good. It would be interesting, because it would be a pretty significant shift within German football. But for now, Dad, thanks a lot. Yeah, until next time.
Until next time, auf Wiedersehen.